What do a crazy taxi-like driving game, an auto-runner parkour adventure, a mind-warping puzzle game that bends space and logic, and a minigame-based RPG with fishing, home decor, and museums have in common? Besides blurring genre lines, plenty of upgrades and progression systems, numerous awards, millions of plays around the web, and active speedrunning communities. Souls! Cute, creepy cartoon creations characteristic of Soul Game Studios. Welcome to Two Left Thumbs. This is Flashlight, the series where I document all things Flash related on the internet. In this installment, I'm not looking at any particular game or game series. I'm instead looking at several small series that all exist under an umbrella world populated by Soulkind, whose namesake is shared by its developers. Some may say that naming absolutely everything in your game after Souls, from Soul Game Studio to the Soulkind to the Soul-ons that they spend, all the way to the sorcery that they cast, maybe starts to feel like a bit much, but I say never. If you're gonna commit to a concept, you might as well go 100% heart and soul. Soul Game Studios has released 5 Flash games under that moniker: The Soul Driver, Rogue Soul, The Gentleman, Rogue Soul 2, and Swords and Souls, with their first full PC release, Swords and Souls Never Seen, in stores now. Never Seen is a successor to the original Swords and Souls in the sense that it shares the Souls universe and utilizes a lot of the core mechanics from that game, but everything has been improved, enhanced, and reworked, sharing a general DNA with the original, but without requiring you to play the original to follow the relatively simple story of Never Seen. You can easily jump straight in. Across their 5 Flash games dating back to the Soul Driver 8 years ago, Soul Game Studios has had one success after another, continuously focusing on quality over quantity. Every game is clean, polished, and easily accessible to newcomers. All coming to a peak with the original Swords and Souls, which came out 4 years ago. It's one of the most beloved Flash games ever, reaching the #1 all-time spot on numerous Flash portals, including still sitting at the #1 all-time spot of Kongregate, one of the biggest Flash portals. Soul Game Studios is the brainchild of 2 cousins from France who paired up to create the game world of their dreams. My direct apologies to Severin, who has a very distinctly French name,
Séverin,
that I cannot pronounce. Guys, there's a reason I flunked out of French in high school. I'll have to go with the English take on things. So our 2 cousins are Severin and Adrian. I had the opportunity to interview Severin and will be sharing excerpts of that interview along the way. The full transcript of that interview will be available on our Patreon page. There's a link to that down below. Please consider supporting, but only if you have money left over after buying Never Seen. Severin details how he grew up making games on paper, naturally progressing to using programs like Paint and finally Flash when he finally had access to a capable computer. His love for games was strong, going so far as to save up as much as he could and buy a secret Game Boy at 12 years old. Adrian's parents were more lenient about access to games, and he and Severin would play all the latest titles together when they spent time together in the summer. Every year there was a 1-week window where the 2 could get together and obsess over video games. After many vacations of stealing away their time to play Final Fantasy, Need for Speed, Pokemon, Elder Scrolls, The Witcher, and many more, they eventually started brainstorming their own game ideas. Jumping ahead a little bit, if you play the Soul Driver today, their first game, you might be surprised by the level of polish. The art, the design, the gameplay, all of it feels like they were coming from developer veterans. In reality, this is their first released game. We did make a lot of them before that. I had hundreds of personal game projects ranging from 2-line text documents to crappy finished games, including loads of prototypes and unfinished RPGs. Adrian and Severin even attempted to challenge themselves with personal game jams of sorts. Could they finish a shared idea they had within a week of vacation time together? After so many attempts and half-finished projects, they knew they wanted to properly complete and release a game. And after 9 full months, the Soul Driver was finally ready to release. Properly sharing a game online and making a bit of money on it changed everything. The 2 went full-time working on Rogue Soul. From personal experience, going full-time on Flash is a massive step with no guarantees. I certainly never made it work. Projects take longer than expected. The sponsorship market can be super unstable, meaning your paychecks are few and far between. Maybe your partner backs out halfway through. Your game is released, but it didn't catch on. You took too long developing, and someone else beat you to a similar premise that's more popular. The Flash game market is quick, short-lived, and volatile. The risks of going full-time there are enormous. But luckily, Severin and Adrian had each other and could trust each other to be reliable. Looking back briefly at the different games they made together, almost all of them share some form of levels, upgrades, progression, bosses, with all sorts of silly flares interwoven throughout. In The Sole Driver, you're a thief on the lam trying to outmaneuver the police in your scrappy little car. In the Rogue Soul game, you're playing through an auto runner, but rather than the usual mechanics of jump and duck, that's interwoven with much more intricate platforming and even small combat systems. This video hypes up Swords and Souls a lot, but Rogue Soul 2 is similarly one of the most well-received Flash games of all time. The Gentleman kind of takes things a step back. We don't even have soul in the title. This game is a slower pace than we're used to seeing from these two, but with trademark flares and creativity. It starts out as a pretty simple puzzler, but in almost no time at all, as more and more mechanics are layered in, you realize how much depth there is to this title. Seemingly, there's no particular genre these two can't tackle. And similar to a developer like the Behemoth, everything that they work on is distinctly a Soul Game Studio game, and I would say that goes beyond that aesthetic. There's a lot of thought and foresight put into the design, the layout, the intricacies, how different mechanics start to fold together the further in the game you are. It goes to show maybe they learned a thing or two, putting in endless hours into analyzing other games and experimenting with their own prototypes before developing full games. Looking at this Soul universe as a whole, I was curious to what extent they consider these games connected, why the cousins chose to pursue development through the lens of a singular world of souls, and whether that conceptual framework for each game has felt limiting or liberating through the years. Severin said that the games are at the very least in the same universe, but possibly the same world. That Soul design and concept came from an old RPG of theirs, Battle of Warland. Severin had to share a small laugh reflecting on that one, but this project ended up being beyond their capabilities at the time. The game was abandoned, but they had fallen in love with the characters Adrian had designed. Souls naturally became a framework for our minds to picture the games we wanted to make. It's actually incredibly empowering to have an existing universe and design style in mind when conjecturing about possible gameplay. It doesn't just help me coming up with an idea and saving a lot of mental energy. It makes the whole process more exciting for me as we keep adding new episodes to the series. I honestly don't think I'll ever be tired of creating Souls adventures. Through each new game, the pair have greatly improved and refined their toolsets and talents. The programming, design, art, sense of gameplay, and progression have all been improved. Even in a game like The Sole Driver, a simple police chase game can inform lessons that can be carried over to other titles. I'll always remember not to downgrade your initial gameplay just for the sake of adding upgrades. The car is barely playable at first. With each and every game providing a new lesson and helping expand the Soul world, Swords and Souls felt to the pair like a crowning achievement of sorts. They had a newfound confidence, and knew now that they fully had the ability to envision a concept and fully realize it to a playable, cohesive, feature-complete game. They had moved beyond the different limitations of time or programming. If there was something they wanted in the game, they were going to find a way to make it. Now we have Neverseen. After a move from Flash to Unity, it's time to revisit those concepts and the Soul world. With a more fleshed out story, more engaging combat, and evolving training minigames, Severin highlights the world map exploration, having pets and allies to fight with, the variety of weapon and equipment types, and improving upon the core minigames to be more unique and more fun. These are all improvements that can be credited to their growing experience as developers. I've actually been doing a playthrough of Neverseen here on the channel, and a few years back I actually played all the Soul games. The game spans 6 chapters, each of which have taken me at least 2 hours. On top of the training and combat, there's fun asides like fishing, completing a museum, venturing out like a Pokemon trainer to catch pets, upgrading your home and training grounds, as well as a post-game endless mode with randomized encounters. You're in store for many hours of gameplay. Not to mention you might feel the desire to do a second playthrough to test out new gear, pets, and skills, maybe seek new achievements, maybe also join in on that speedrunning community. This game has been out for a month now on Cartridge, Congregate's game distribution platform, and in that time people have already managed to shave that normally 12+ hour playthrough into 2.5 hours. So if you want to work your way up and take down the top speedrunner, claim that elite status for yourself, you better get started. I want to leave everyone with this excited quote from Severin talking about the game. I'd like people to know that making this game has been my sole purpose for 4 years, without a single moment where I didn't think about it. I just hope that that'll show and that people will appreciate the game. As well as this small little tease of what's to come next from Soul Game Studios, something they aren't fully working on just yet while they focus on supporting Neverseen. I have so many ideas that what we make next will be a tough choice. I think we'll pursue whatever makes sense when the time comes. We'll see what excites us to pursue. Spoiler alert, it'll probably involve souls. After all those years of work and teases, I'm so happy to see that Neverseen is finally available in stores. I've been having a ton of fun with it and would highly recommend it. I would say you can go and play any of their free Flash games. If you're interested in this, try out Swords and Souls first, and understand that everything that you like about it is expanded and improved upon, and anything that you find slows down the gameplay or bogs you down was either cut or reworked. It serves as an excellent little demo to see if you're into this idea of training-based minigames, semi-autonomous combat, and battling your way through hordes of enemies. In the end cards here, I'll have a link to my own playthrough that I'm actively working on. There'll also be a link up to our Patreon if you want to see that interview in its entirety. Supporting us there frees us up to make more content like this, and we're also working on holding votes for people to help us decide which games to play next on the channel. Flashlight is also a series, so if you're interested in more Flash history, then I'll have a playlist available in one of those links for you as well. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you again soon.